This message is not for everyone, but if you've been praying and hearing nothing, God wants you to hear this. The real miracle. Why prayer works, even when nothing changes. So here we are, at number 1. And if you've made it this far, congratulations. You've just survived a deep dive into the weird, wild, and sometimes wacky world of prayer psychology. But here's the real kicker. Prayer doesn't have to change the universe to work, because the truth is, prayer often doesn't alter reality. It doesn't move mountains, summon angels, or make your ex text you back. What it does do, however, is change you. It gives you a moment of pause in a world that never stops spinning. It offers structure to chaos, meaning to confusion, and comfort to the lost. And honestly, that's kind of miraculous in its own way. Whether it's calming your nervous system, tricking your brain into feeling hopeful, or giving you a sense of community, prayer is more than just words in the dark. It's a tool, a ritual, and for many, a lifeline. So whether you're praying to win the lottery, heal a broken heart, or simply survive another Monday, remember, the real miracle may not be in the answer you receive, but in the fact that you ask. The God spot. Is there a literal prayer button in your brain? Imagine if there was a single button in your brain that, when pressed, made you instantly feel spiritual, transcendent, or even divine. Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? Well, scientists have been hunting for that exact thing, dubbed the God spot, for decades. The idea is simple. Could there be a specific region in the brain that's responsible for spiritual experiences? Some early studies pointed to the temporal lobes, especially the right side, as being heavily involved in religious feeling. People with epilepsy or damage in that area often report intense spiritual visions, out-of-body experiences, or a constant sense of being watched by a higher presence. But here's the twist. More recent research suggests that spirituality isn't localized to just one spot. Instead, it's more like a whole network, scattered across multiple regions that handle emotion, memory, and perception. So it's not like your brain has a dedicated pray mode button. It's more like a bunch of different parts throwing a spiritual rave when the right conditions hit. Still, the search for the God spot continues. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be able to press a button and feel cosmic bliss on demand. Until then, you'll just have to stick with prayer, meditation, or that weird mushroom your friend keeps trying to get you to try. Prayer and the illusion of control. You're stuck in traffic, late for work, and suddenly you're praying for a miracle. Maybe it's not even a specific miracle, just something like, please God help me not get fired. And even though you know deep down that the traffic won't magically clear just because you whispered a few words, you still feel a little better. This is the illusion of control, and it's one of the brain's favorite coping mechanisms. When life feels chaotic or out of control, doing something, even just praying, can trick your brain into thinking you've regained some power. Psychologists call this an illusion, because obviously praying for the bus to come faster doesn't make it happen. But emotionally, it works. It gives you a sense of autonomy, which in turn reduces anxiety and stress. So, in a world full of variables you can't control, like your boss's mood or the weather, prayer becomes a kind of spiritual steering wheel. You're not really driving, but at least you feel like you're in the passenger seat. And sometimes, that's enough. The dark side of prayer, when faith becomes a trap. Let's be real for a second. Prayer isn't always a bed of roses. Sometimes it can backfire in ways that make your brain do mental gymnastics. Have you ever prayed for something difficult, failed, and then felt like it was your fault? Like, did I not pray enough? Was I not worthy? This is called prayer guilt, and it's a sneaky little monster. When you believe prayer should work, and it doesn't, your brain starts to blame. It's like setting up a cosmic vending machine. You pray and expect a miracle, but when nothing comes out, you start to wonder if you inserted the wrong coin, or if you're just a bad customer. This can lead to spiritual anxiety, depression, or even a crisis of faith. Some people end up praying obsessively, trying to fix what they believe they've done wrong. Others turn away from religion altogether, feeling betrayed by a higher power. So while prayer can be a source of comfort, it can also become a psychological trap if you're not careful, because ultimately, the universe universe doesn't owe you a miracle, and its value isn't dependent on whether or not your prayers are answered. Prayer as a form of meditation. You sit in silence, close your eyes, and focus on your breathing, or perhaps on a set of words, a phrase, or a name. Sound familiar? That's because prayer and meditation are practically cousins who attended the same mindfulness summer camp. Both practices activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which tells your body, hey, it's okay to relax a little. Your heart rate drops, your breathing slows, and your stress levels decrease. In fact, studies have shown that long-term prayer can actually change the structure of the brain, deepening areas related to attention, compassion, and emotional regulation. The difference? Meditation typically focuses on the self, while prayer focuses on something bigger. But the end result is eerily similar, a sense of peace, clarity, and inner tranquility. So if you've ever felt calmer after a few minutes of prayer, congratulations. You've essentially done a spiritual version of yoga for your brain. And honestly, if whispering to the universe helps you stay sane in this garbage world, who are we to judge? The power of repetition. Mantras, rosaries, and brainwaves. You've probably noticed that a lot of prayers involve repetition. Hail Marys, mantras, chants, or even just saying, God, please help me, over and over like a broken spiritual Alexa. But here's the thing, your brain loves repetition. It's like a lullaby for your neurons. Studies have shown that repetitive prayer or chanting can actually slow down your brain waves, shifting you from the fast, chaotic beta state, which is basically your brain's panic mode, to a calmer, more reflective alpha or theta state. In other words, you go from, I need answers now, to, maybe everything's going to be okay after all. And it doesn't even matter what you're repeating, whether it's Om Shanti Shanti or I will survive. The key is the rhythm. It's like your brain hears the repetition and says, oh, we're doing the calming thing now, got it. So next time you find yourself stuck in a loop of anxious thoughts, maybe try a little verbal comfort food, something repetitive, meaningful, and soothing. Your brain will thank you, and you might just feel a little closer to peace, or at least a little less like the universe is personally out to get you. The bizarre case of speaking in tongues. You're in a room full of people, everyone's swaying, hands in the air, and suddenly someone starts speaking, but it's not a language. It's not even gibberish. It's a full-on, ecstatic, rapid-fire stream of syllables that sounds like a newborn dolphin trying to perform a Shakespearean monologue. Welcome to glossolalia, better known as speaking in tongues. And believe it or not, science has taken a hard look at this phenomenon. When researchers scanned the brains of people speaking in tongues, they found something surprising. A decrease in frontal lobe activity. That's the part of your brain responsible for self-control, logic, and decision-making. In other words, you're basically hitting the disable adult supervision button in your head. But here's the kicker. Participants also reported feeling a stronger sense of connection to the divine. So while your brain might be taking a nap, your soul, or whatever you want to call that emotional high, feels like it's flying. Is it a miracle, the mental hiccup, a deeply emotional release? Honestly, it's probably a little of all three. Either way, it's a reminder that when it comes to prayer, sometimes nonsense makes perfect sense. Prayer and the brain that thinks it's listening. You're kneeling beside your bed, eyes closed, whispering a heartfelt plea into the void, only to wonder, is there someone up there? Turns out your brain might be the one answering. Studies show that when people pray, the brain lights up like a Christmas tree, especially the prefrontal cortex, which controls focus, intention, and moral judgment. But here's the twist. The brain also activates areas linked to social interaction, as if you were actually having a conversation with someone. So while you may think you're speaking to a divine being, your gray matter is just giving the best impression of a cosmic hotline. And get this, the more devout you are, the stronger this neural activity becomes. It's as if your brain has built an internal buddy system for God. The problem? It doesn't matter which deity you're praying to, your brain still reacts the same way. So, whether you're talking to Jesus, Krishna, or the flying spaghetti monster, your brain thinks you're talking to a very important friend. So the next time you feel that warm, fuzzy feeling of connection during prayer, remember, it might just be your brain giving you a mental high five. The placebo effect of prayer. You've probably heard of the placebo effect, when a sugar pill makes you feel better just because you believe it's a medicine. But did you know that prayer works the same way? In study after study, people who believe they're being prayed for for often report feeling better, even when no one is actually praying for them. Meanwhile, people who are being prayed for but don't know it, they show no significant difference. So, what's going on? It's all about expectation. Your brain is a master at self-deception, especially when it comes to hope. If you think someone is praying for you, your brain releases feel-good chemicals like dopamine and endorphins. Suddenly, your pain feels more manageable, your mood improves, and boom, you're miraculously recovering. This isn't to say prayer is false or useless. In fact, it's proof that belief can be a powerful tool. But it also means that in many cases, the real miracle may just be your own brain tricking you into feeling better. And honestly, if that's the case, maybe we should start prescribing quiet time with your imaginary friend instead of Prozac. But hey, don't tell your therapist I said that. The helmet of God and the science of spiritual visions. Picture this. You're wearing a clunky, medieval-looking helmet covered in wires, sitting in a pitch-black room, and suddenly you feel God tapping your shoulder. No, you're not auditioning for a biblical movie. You're being electrocuted by the infamous helmet of God. Developed by neuroscientist Michael Persinger in the 1980s, this device sends weak magnetic fields into the brain's temporal lobes, supposedly triggering the sensation of a felt presence. Many test subjects reported feeling as if someone or something was in the room with them. Some even described it as a divine encounter. But here's the catch. The effects only work if you believe they can work. Skeptics who went into the experiment expecting nothing usually got nothing. Believers, however, often left convinced they had stumbled upon the supernatural. So what's really going on? Your brain is essentially a prediction machine. If you say, hey, maybe you'll meet God today, and something strange happens, boom, confirmation bias. Your brain fills in the blanks and gives you the spiritual experience you were prepared for. In short, the God helmet doesn't summon angels. It just shows how eager your brain is to believe in them.